What's happening?
Hey, just in time. Just trying to swallow down a couple pieces of pizza before you get started.
I just got done. We cooked a bunch of venison and beef wrapped, tenderloin wrapped in bacon
That
and
sounds a hell of a lot better than Pizza Hut. I've been de-weeding the garden for the last 3 hours.
well, congrats, my friend. Good job on the win.
Thank you. It's still setting in. It's just crazy. That's all I can say.
For you guys to do it, wire to wire is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Not too many people can say they did that. I wonder if Lance is having a problem getting in. Let's see. There he is.
How's it going, gentlemen?
All right.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Good. Just got home with the kids, so been running around catching critters tonight.
Catching critters?
Yeah.
What kind of critters you catching?
Let's see. You want a list? They caught bullheads. They caught bluegills, sunfish, smallmouth, largemouth, freshwater shrimp, tadpoles, thunderbugs. I think that's about it. But yeah, quite a bit of things.
Nice. So where are you guys getting the bullheads?
They actually were getting them in the Wolf River, just netting them. They're like, I don't know, 2 inches long.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm trying to find some for some catfish.
I don't know if these are big enough for that.
Gotcha. Well, there we go. I got all three of those. Cool beans. So I guess first off, thanks for joining in. Really appreciate it. I know everybody's super busy and give you guys some limelight. I know there's probably some people that are going to have some questions. We'll try and answer as best we can without giving out too information, obviously. But first off, how have you guys been fishing together? How did you meet? What's the backstory there?
I'd say we met through a mutual friend, Cameron Lewis. I fished against Lance and his old partner, Steve Slave, for MWS days and everything else. And then once Cam stopped fishing for a little while, Lance and I hooked up, and we've been pretty consistent in finishing in the top of the fields almost every event. So we have our bad days, and we have our great days like this last one.
Everybody has bad days. So, Lance, you're no stranger to tournament fishing. Scott, you're no stranger to tournament fishing. I know Scott loves to troll.
I don't mind it.
Most of the time, you guys are, pretty good jig sticks, and I'm assuming that's what you guys were doing up on the bay. Tell us how pre-fishing went. And I know Lance is really good at breaking bodies of water down. I ran into him a few times and fished next to him on the river and stuff too. And great dude. And I guess tell me what you guys went into the week trying to figure out, and to help some other people out there. What do you look for when you get into such a big body of water? Now, forget the fact that, we're locals. For some new people coming into something like this, what do you look for? What do you do?
You want me to tackle this?
Yep, have at it.
Well, I guess since we have experience on the Green Bay system, we kind of had a good game plan as to what we were thinking, where we wanted to start. We kind of wanted to start on shorelines on the west shore of the bay, north of Menominee. Looking for rock sand transitions, rock points, offshore rock humps, basically any structure where there's somewhere where a walleye can rest, and then be close to their food source. So we had a whole list of spots. that was kind of our first focus was the West Shore. And then we also wanted to hit the Door County stuff, some of the islands, some of the shorelines and different things over there, and looking for the similar type of stuff. So rock transitions and humps and islands. And we started off, Scott found some fish right away the first day. They were actually on the transition and even out completely on the sand away from the rock. He was able to find some fish. And then we thought that would be a pattern. And when we go back to check it, it seemed to fizzle out. So, and then the West Shore, we would go into spots and we would stare at walleyes, and you couldn't do anything. I even took a chub, I rigged a chub and I let it swim in front of a walleye, about an 8-pounder. And the walleye didn't even flinch, didn't move. It was like, I mean, how did they not react to food swimming right in their face? But that's what we were dealing with early in the week of pre-fish, with all the calm weather and the full moon at night, and all the fishing pressure that was, with the almost 300 boat tournament, there was a boat on every spot all day, every day for a week straight. So that was really putting a strain on getting those fish to be active during the day, which is eventually why we bailed on what we thought we could do and we ended up looking for new water that we've never fished before. And luckily ran into some fish late in pre-fish. So.
Okay. So that was one of my questions is, there's a lot of really good sticks that were fishing that tournament. A lot of guys that are real familiar with the bay. And everybody knows, that West Shore this time of the year, shoreline stuff, they're still pretty much getting out of that post-spawn window, and every spot had to have had just pounds of people on it. How do you deal with that type of pressure? And I dealt with it, when I fished the NWT. One of the things that I haven't even had a podcast since NWT to kind of let people know how that goes is, when you're guiding, you got to turn the small fish mode off and you're going for the win. You don't want to finish in the middle of the pack. You want to win it. And I dealt with the same thing, pressure, and the fact that you could sit there and watch these fish swim around and not even think about looking at your bait. But that's fishing. But talk about the pressure. I mean, finding new spots and where did you guys end up?
Yeah, so I mean, it was after doing the same thing for a couple days and just having the same results. I mean, you'd fish for 12 hours and be lucky to get 1, maybe 2 bites. We were scratching our heads, and we went to Door County a day thinking, well, there should be less guys over there, which really didn't seem to be the case. There's quite a few guys over there as well, and we ran into the same issues. You could look at them, but you couldn't get them to be active. And even having live scope, normally you can find fish that are up and active, and it was very tough to find that. And so then we kind of pulled the plug on that with 2 days left to pre-fish, and then we went way north looking for something that wasn't getting pressured, that had fish. And we did get lucky enough to find that. We found one spot that we caught 2 fish on pretty quick with about a day and a half left to pre-fish. And so then it turned into a map study and just kind of looking at how we found them, where they were, and we just tried to duplicate the pattern. We had 1 day left to pre-fish, and we ran a lot of water just looking for them. And having live scope is so essential for how we're doing everything, because once you use that for a while, you get an idea of how spooky the fish are, how far you have to keep your boat away from them to even fish them without spooking them. That was a big thing. And then just knowing what a walleye school looks like versus suckers or whitefish or smallmouth or sheephead. So if you didn't have live scope, you wouldn't have done what we did, because you would have never ever saw those fish. You would have never found them because they were spooking from the boat.
Yeah.
So we got really lucky that we had the right technology, and in the calm weather, we were able to use it and see those fish at a distance and be able to get a lure in front of them without them spooking.
Sure. So for people that don't know, Green Bay, traditionally what the bay how it fishes is the lower bay. You have, one of the largest rivers that that dumps in, the Fox River dumps into the pier. It's super shallow down on that lower bay, and it's really dirty. And then the further north you go, the clearer it gets. Once you get north of Marinette, and you get north of Sturgeon Bay, and that the water gets gin clear, especially this time of the year when it's still pretty cool. So when you guys are looking for fish, when you get that far north, what are you looking for? I mean, what's separating just average fish from those true giants that that guys look for up in the upper peninsula there?
Scott?
Well, where we had our best success was stained water, slightly discolored water. There was clear water, wasn't far off, and then you'd go maybe 2 miles and you just had this slight tint to that water, and that was enough to get those fish to go. Now, when we found these fish pre-fishing, we had a couple of spots that we thought would be the big fish spots, and then work our way down to 3, 4, 4 being the small fish spot, but numbers of them. Well, it turns out our number 4 small fish spot was giving up the 7s and 8s and so on, and the small fish disappeared until the second day. I think, what did we have? We needed 2 or 3 fish with a half hour to go, and then we had a school of small fish and big fish together, and it was fun. At that point we didn't care. We just boom, 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 done. I think we had a 4-pounder in it, but then it's very next school over, we had like a 7 or 8-pounder out of it. But yeah, that was the only place where there was different sizes mixed together. Otherwise, they were pretty much one spot. It was 26 to 29s, and then the next spot was these little guys and so on. But that stained water was the key to having success up there. But again, we were fishing bite windows, so I don't know if we would have found these things in the morning. We never would have gotten the bite and would have been disgruntled. These things every day was like time work. The bugs, I don't know if it has some relation to do with the bugs, but as soon as those bugs start hatching, going in every crevice in your body, those walleyes would turn on, and then you'd get them about 10:30, 11 o'clock.
That's a really good observation, because we see that out on the Winnebago system, Poygan especially. You can be fishing on a calm day, and I love fishing weeds. I love jigging shallow spots. And again, you can sit there and watch fish, but it seems like all of a sudden that water, I don't know if it's water temperature or what happens, but you'll see the larvae start to, almost grow wings or dry up or whatever. And next thing you know, poof, and they're off the water. And then boom, you'll start getting bites. I see it on the Winnebago system all the time as well. Even crappie fishing, when we get like mayfly hatches or different hatches on some of these lakes, it seems like as soon as that happens, the fish just go bonkers. I don't know, if it's water temperature or just something telling them that, hey, I better start eating because stuff's, easy to get at. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this before. We're paying close attention to water temperatures every day, watching it slowly rise from, I think when we first started fishing, it was 63, 64. By the end of the second day, I believe it was 68. And we're starting to wonder, is this driving the fish off? Because the bite progressively keeps getting worse and worse towards later in the day. And then we had to deal with these enormous pike that were moving into these walleye spots. And that was also driving off our fish. So,
yeah. So were you guys looking for big rocks? Was there like a certain key detail that you really focused in on?
It wasn't so much the type of rock. Rock was important, but there was, where we were fishing, there was rock and there was stretches of sand. So there, it was, I don't think the rock was the important thing as much as the depth of water that we found. And, once you found and that's kind of how we figured out where to pre-fish on the last day of pre-fish. So there was a certain depth that we were getting them on that second to last day of pre-fish. And I believe it has to do with thermocline. I can't prove that, but I feel like there was a thermocline set up and those fish would not want to be deeper than a certain depth. And once you kind of, we looked at it that way and we just said, okay, well, if the thermocline's at say 17 feet, we can't be fishing deeper than 17 feet because the water's too cold. They don't want to be in the cold water.
Yep.
So we were fishing relatively shallow. So, and that was we don't know that, like I said, but I feel like there was some sort of thermocline with how calm it was for how many days. And the fish wanted to be near that thermocline, and they wanted to be on the warm side of it. And our fish too, every day in the live well, we'd have several ounces of gobies, and I don't know if they were smelt or alewives or what, but we'd have 6, 7 bait fish in the live well every day at the end of the day. So they were definitely feeding. On that first day, we caught 5 in 20 minutes, and those fish were chewing for sure, because you would throw it in there and you wouldn't even get 2 hops and you had a fish on. So that was something that was very hard to find.
Were you taking those alewives and those fish and putting some sinkers and putting them back down in there?
Yeah, right. No.
So, that's kind of an interesting thing. Is there anything a guy can do, fish in tournaments to keep their mouths closed so they don't cough up any weight? I mean, some of those fish, are coughing up a few ounces.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really anything you can do. I think the rougher the boat ride, the more likely they are to regurgitate it all. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of cool to see, because then you can see what they're eating without having to keep one and cut it open and see. Because we do like to see what they're eating. So, I mean, that was kind of cool. But yeah, it would have been nice to get those few extra ounces, but it turned out we didn't eat them. So that was okay.
That's awesome. So what do you think? I mean, get off of what you guys did for a second. The rest of the field, why did so many people struggle? What was the issue down where most guys were fishing?
I think it was the pressure, the amount of pressure, the spooky nature of the fish. So the calm weather, the amount of pressure, people probably getting too close to the fish. So we saw it countless times. We'd see a school of walleyes. You'd get the boat 60 feet and you just see them start swimming. You could follow them with the live scope. You could throw it right in front of them and they wouldn't follow your bait down, nothing. If you could cast in a school that was active, that didn't know you were there, they would go straight to the bottom and eat your bait. A lot, not every time, but a lot of the time when they were active. So I think a lot of guys probably, maybe didn't understand that. And then I think with the full moon and all that calm weather, the fish were just more nocturnal and they're kind of resting during the day. So all those things made it tough for sure. For everybody.
So John Bala had a question. He said, congratulations. And then how do you go about telling the difference in fish species on your live scope?
Experience. You throw in a school and you catch a sucker and you make note. Yep, those are suckers. With the suckers, it seemed like they're pretty numerous. A lot of times there'll be 30 in a school or something. You'll say, whoa, look at that school. And a lot of times too, you can get close to the suckers and you'll actually see them spooking in front of the boat if you look down. We do that sometimes. We'll put the trolling motor on 10 and go right at a school of them if we're wondering if they're walleyes or not. And a lot of times you can see, you'll see them spook off from the boat and you'll get to see what they are.
So when we living out in Watoma, we bluegill fish and going around checking, bluegills on their beds. And it kind of seems like on those deeper beds, and Scott, I know you bluegill fish a ton too. You get close to those beds and all those males, you can watch it just boom, they'll congregate together and boom, they're gone. Yep. And then it usually takes like an hour for them to slowly start to migrate back. Kind of sounds like the same thing you guys are experiencing out there with the walleyes.
Yeah, it was key again all week is I always leave my live scope set out to 100 feet and you just constantly watch. And as soon as you'd see a flicker of a mark or something and you try to creep in real slow, get them about 90 feet, just line up the head of your Ultrex and point it at it, line up your cast and try to cast past them and swim your jig down to them. But if you start getting them close, there were exceptions. We had one of the coolest moments I'll never forget is where Lance was jigging. I believe it was the second day we were struggling. Yep. We were down on our lock, just like questioning, what are we doing? And Lance goes to pull his bait up and there's a big one. I think it's like an 8-pounder bigger. Right there, right where his jig was, sitting 10 feet away from the boat, swims right off the bow of the boat. I dropped the jig down, and you can literally watch it open its mouth, suck it in, and we got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are stuff that happened that shouldn't happen. Just by the grace of God here.
Yeah, I gave up on my cast a little premature because a lot of times it seemed like they were biting within, 6, 7 hops of your bait. And he told me where to cast. I casted it out there. I did 7, 8 hops, and I just figured I wasn't going to bite, so I started cranking it in. I looked down, and that fish's nose is pointed right at the boat, right where I just pulled my lure out of. Luckily, Scott had his ready, and I said, "Scott, walleye," and I pointed to it. He threw it down there, and that thing turned right around and ate it. It would have been really cool to get that on film. I mean, that was special. And then that was a really big fish for us because that was number 2 on day 2, and we needed that one because we only got 5 all day that day. So that was a good one. That was awesome.
So when you go and fish these tournaments, people always say numbers or quantity. And what were you guys looking for?
We're trying to make sure we could get our 5 bites, but the right 5, not small fish. Lance and I, of all the years fishing together, we've never been the team that gets a big fish award. We've never seen to bring in the big fish. Just a consistent, good average. Like this event, I think our big fish was 9 pounds, but everything else was pretty much 7 pounds right across the board. I mean, that's what we try to look for, just a consistent average of something that's going to hold together.
Nice. Well, it worked. So
yeah, we definitely weren't on numbers. I mean, a couple of spots we saw some schools and maybe 15 to 20 walleyes in a school, so we had an idea that if they went, we could maybe catch numbers. But we were really worried going into day 1. We kind of told ourselves we can only take 5. We don't want to take too many fish because we don't know how many are there, and we didn't want to burn them out for 3 days of fishing. So I talked Scott into catching 6 on the first day.
Yeah,
we had a skinny 25.5 that was, I think it was 5'6", and we had the boat spot locked, and there was a school of them feeding right in front of the boat. And I said, one more. He throws it in. He catches a 9-pound 3-ouncer, big fish of the day.
And I remember
like, all right, now we're done.
We were questioning. I'm like, Lance, no, we're arguing back and forth. Like, just throw it back out there and wham, done.
Yeah. Then it was official. Then it's like, yeah, we're done. And
what was it? 11:30? Yeah.
Yeah. At 11:30, we were done. So
nice. So let me ask you, what are you guys catching these fish on? And one of the guys here asked, do the color of the baits make a difference?
It's just your plain Jane, nothing fancy, purple hair jig. You get them from bait store out in Genoa on Mississippi. I forget the exact name of them. I'm terrible with names, but it's going to be on the show, so it's no secret. Just plain Jane, all purple with a stinger on the back. And that stinger is so crucial at these fish, how many times they nip at the back of the hair. Walleyes, you almost never, ever feel a bite. All week, I think I felt 2 good hits. The rest, you pick it up, and it's just a log laying on there.
Yep.
9 times out of 10, it's on that stinger. So when we hook a fish, I mean, it was baby them because you got these little wire stingers on. But that was it. I mean, pre-fishing, I caught some on blade baits, and Lance caught some on
swim bait.
Yep, swim baits and shiver minnows and stuff. But none of that really came through on the days that it mattered. It was just that hair jig was our best.
It was just a confidence thing for us. We were getting bit on a hair jig. Could we have caught him on swim baits? Yes. Could we caught him on blade baits? Probably. Could we caught him on the shiver minnow? Yes. But I mean, with just the way that purple hair jig with that stinger, you didn't lose many fish. We did the last day. We did lose 2 fish. For a while, they were heartbreakers because it took us a long time to get 5 on the last day, and we had 1 inches from the net early in the day, and then watched that sucker swim off, and the cameraman got all that. So that was like, oh man, we had a pit in our stomach all 3 days of this tournament. The first day we went through all 4 of the spots. We ended up back at where we had started the day before we finally got on to anything decent, and then it went from stressed out to 11:30 with 6 and jumping up and down. So the first day but it was still stressful. Then the second day we kind of were a little more optimistic, and we got our 5th one with 15 minutes left to fish. So stressful again. And then the last day to just fish somewhere else completely and have 4 fish through 3/4 of the day. So it was a lot of stressful moments, but we stuck with it. We grounded out. We didn't give up. I feel like a lot of guys, it's really easy in tournament fishing to mentally panic. And when you panic and you start scrambling, that's when it can go downhill fast. So as hard as it was to kind of just grind and just remind ourselves that it was an afternoon bite those first 2 mornings, and when they're not biting, we're seeing them, we just have to wait for them to turn on, and just being able to have that in our heads and stick with it, I think is really why we won. If we would have just not caught fish in the morning and bailed on our spots, it wouldn't have worked out. So that's a big thing with fishing that I've learned.
And that goes for anything, is that time on the water is the most important thing to being successful. I think all 3 of us could agree on that.
Yep.
You can read, you can watch, you can tie stuff in your boat all day. I mean, you can do that countless hours, but what you learn in the time on the water is what makes you successful, because you guys have done it, and you go out, you don't even fish. I mean, you just literally drive around, and you learn so much by doing that. I mean, heck, even I've been on this system my whole life, and pre-fishing for the NWT. I've pre-fished and fished a lot of tournaments on the system. Every day I pre-fished, I found something new and learned something new, because I was going to places that I'd never been before, looking for things that, trying to find that one spot. And so yeah, time on the water. So I got to ask you, the last day you guys said you went to someplace totally different. So was that a spot that you just knew from experience, or did you guys pre-fish that spot? What was that story?
Yeah, it was, we fished a spot that we hadn't caught fish in the week for this tournament. So we fished Memories, but we've been in tournaments before where we've pre-fished the West Shore and not been able to catch them. And then found fish in Door County, went to Door County, had a northeast, the same wind that we had for day 3 of the tournament, a northeast wind. And all the top bags would come from the area that we like to fish. So it was hard for us to make that call, but at the same time, we knew that with the right conditions on that West Shore, that we should be able to, we have enough spots, we've caught enough fish over there, we should be able to do enough of a milk run to find something and figure something out. And I think it was 5th cast of the morning, I caught a 6-pounder. So that really kind of eased our nerves on day 3. And we had 4 pretty quick, 3 pretty quick, and then the 4th one not too far after that. And then we lost 2 more. So we had, 6 fish in the, by I think 10 a.m. or so. And then it kind of slowed down after that. And then we did some spot hopping. But just fishing Memories, just fishing, kind of like you're pre-fishing. A lot of my best days of fishing are when I'm pre-fishing and I'm hopping around, so the more I fish, the less I'm worried about what waypoint I'm on and where I caught a fish last Tuesday. I'm just, I like to fish the conditions, and that's what we did the last day. We just went with our guts and fished where the walleye should be on that wind, and it worked. So will it work next time? Probably not, but it worked this time. So it is what it is, but yeah.
Nice. So John had another question. He says, so everyone has a goal in mind for weight it will take to win. What did you think would win, and how many pounds did you think you could catch going into the Derby?
Well, me personally, coming into this event, I figured you probably needed 33 to 35 to have a chance at winning it. After fishing for, I don't even know how many days it was, 6 days before the event, or whatever heck it was, I'm thinking, God, if a guy could get 25 a day, he's got a shot at winning this thing. And to make the cutoff, I was pretty close. I was guessing 20 pounds a day, and you make the top 25. And it's just, this is the hardest that I've ever seen that body of water fish this time of year. Usually it's everybody comes up, have a blast. You're going to be battling each other for the prime spots, and you're going to see multiple 40-pound bags. But it wasn't happening.
Nope.
So did the alewife come in and hatch, or what was going on down south?
Yeah, so down south, we didn't spend much time south of Marinette. But from everyone that I talked to, it sounded like, the bait fish, primarily alewives, were everywhere. So, where we were up north, we didn't notice, we noticed some bait, but not not on every structure, and not like huge schools of it. So for us, I guess we didn't have to worry about that, which was pretty convenient, because that once the alewives come in, you don't have long. You have a day or two. Once them walleyes are onto that, and they know that they have an all-you-can-eat buffet, they will rest during the day and they will feed when they want, if the wind blows or whatever. So you're kind of at the mercy of their really little feeding windows. Whereas when the bait's not around, they're, you know, a little more apt to bite when you're there. But even that wasn't the case for us. I mean, it was a middle of the day thing. It was the only time we could really get them to bite. So
you guys are fishing hair jigs. What size?
Half ounce is pretty much all I religiously use on that bait. I find that's what you get the best reaction strikes out of the starting and the falling of that bait. So
Yep. I beat John to it. So just kind of getting into a little bit of details here. What size rod are you using? How long? You know, the line, you know, explain your whole setup.
take it away.
well, I mean, I have an Abu Garcia Veritas rod, and I don't let my kids use it. It's a 7-foot medium. It's a white rod. I've caught a lot of walleyes on the bay on that rod, and it's a little stiffer than you would think. I actually bought a medium light 7-foot Veritas, and I like that a little more for hair jigs. But yeah, so 7-foot medium or medium light, and a 6.2 to 1 reel, or I think it's a 7.4 to 1. I have a really fast gear ratio reel also I like to use when I'm live scoping, more so in the summer in August when you're fishing deeper water, because that way if you're casting at a school of fish and you miss them to the right 10 feet, you can crank it in really fast and get back on that school before they're gone. But for this one, I was using a 6.2 to 1 Abu Garcia reel, and spinning reels, everything. So
What kind of line?
I was using Berkeley X9 braid and 10-pound chartreuse. That's I don't know if it's really the most popular braid out there, but it's, for me, I love it. You can see it. It's a little softer to work with for tying knots. It's smoother than like a fire line, and it doesn't get like fluffy, like doesn't get like kind of, I call it fluffy, or when it starts to wear and when it frays, it gets kind of bigger and puffier or whatever. This stuff seems to hold its own for quite a while. So that's what I was using. And then I was tying a knot to like a 6 to 8 pound, 6 to 8 foot long, 15 pound, a braid, or Invisex, Seaguar Invisex is what I was running for a leader. I love that line. I've never had any issues with that. That stuff is bulletproof. So that was my setup.
Nice. How about you, Scott?
Oh my God, I was switching through so many rods. I think I had a Veritas, I had a Vendetta, a Villain, all about the same 7-foot mediums. As far as reels, they're all Abu Garcias. One of each is on each one. I just play around with so many. There was no rhyme or reason. I just buy them and put them in my hands. I find the right one I like. But I was using 12-pound test nano. I love that line. I can cast a mile with that line. Wind knots, yeah, everybody knows the dreaded wind knots that come with nano, but I love that line. And then, unlike Lance, because I don't trust my fluorocarbon knots to my nano line, I use a swivel. So I got a tiny ass little swivel, and then I got a 3-foot leader of 15-pound test Berkeley fluorocarbon attached on, and I tie all my hair jigs always direct, never with a swivel.
Yep.
And that was my setup.
Same here, always direct.
Yeah. Do people use snaps on hair jigs?
Yep, a lot of people actually do, and it's killing your action. It's eliminating what you want.
Yeah, I never even would have. That wouldn't even cross my mind.
Right.
I just think it's from people being lazy and constantly trying to switch different baits, and just you have one rod that's designated as that hair jig, and if you want to put snaps on your ripping wraps and whatnot, that really doesn't matter at that point. But
Nice. So how many miles were you guys running each day?
oh, what did we put on? We figured 140 to 150 miles the first 2 days. And then the second day, we did a lot of running back and forth. It was basically 20, 25 miles straight up and straight back.
Okay. All right. John Ball, I had another question. How do you guys work your hair jigs?
I do a little flick of the wrist, a little snap. I always have slack in it when I snap it because I want that thing to dart, but I don't want to do outrageous lifts. So my bait's maybe moving a foot at the most. But then I let it sit on the bottom for a good 2-3 seconds and then just repeat. You don't want to go too fast, too slow. A lot of people are doing these big sweeps, these big rips. It's just not what they want. They want it to look more like that goby, little quick little darts. If you ever stare at a goby, that's how they're moving.
Yeah, my old tournament partner, he taught me that. We'd have that underwater camera in the boat, and we'd drop that sucker on schools of gobies, and the camera would get close to them, and they'd swim up off the bottom. They'd swim 3 feet, and they'd set right back down on their fins, because they're heavy. They sink. They can't swim up. They're more dense than water, so they're always on the bottom. And even when you spook them, they only go 3 feet. So, I mean, max. So, it's kind of just pulling it forward. You don't want it like hopping off the bottom super crazy, like up in the water column. You want it more horizontal, like basically how you would think a goby would be spooking. And then the other thing I was thinking in the morning, it seemed like shorter hops were better, like right away in the morning. A little more subtle, and then as the day went on, you could work it a little bit snappier. You could snap it a little harder and get them to react. But yeah, it's less jerking than you would think. It's more of a subtle presentation. You don't want to be going crazy with it. I mean, I'm sure there's times where that works more when the water warms up, maybe. But for us, it seemed like just short hops, and then, like Scott said, having a pause in there. You got to give them a second to see it on the bottom and try to inhale it. And that's where that stinger came in, because the jigs we're using have a flat head. So the hook is laying on the bottom, the jig hook. So having that stinger in that hair, when they go to suck, when a walleye opens its mouth and they flare their gills, the first thing that gets sucked into their mouth is that treble hook. So that was key for us, was having that treble hook and pausing it on the bottom so that they had the chance to suck it in.
That's a great tip. When people fish hair jigs, and I'm going to ask you guys this too afterwards, but when people fish hair jigs, when I see them, they're fishing them like a rip and wrap or a shiver minnow, and that's not what you want to do with the hair jigs. You want to, like you say, almost make it like glide through the water. You don't want it doing this. You want it more at a level, just a couple, maybe a foot at most coming up off the bottom and just swimming it on the bottom. And, I had a question too, on your stinger hooks. Were you letting a long stinger hook, or are you guys keeping them like just right behind the hair?
The ones that we were using, they come pre-packaged in it, but they're right at the end of the hair. The ones that I homemade also are the same thing. You want that to be right at the very end of that hair.
Okay. All right. Do you guys ever play around with any scents at all on your hair?
I've never have.
Okay.
Wouldn't be a bad thing to try. I would definitely try it. But never did. I play with scents a lot, but I've never been able to tell, does it make a difference? I don't know. I guess it comes down to comfort level or, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Yeah. I mean, if they're following it for a distance, and they're not eating it, if you can see them following it for 20 feet and then they just give up on it, then that would be definitely a time to try it. But it seemed like for us, the ones that if they were going to eat it, they just ate it within a couple hops of the jig. So, but that would be the time I would try scent, is if they were following it back to the boat and they wouldn't bite.
Yep. So I got to ask you, have either one of you guys fished Ned rigs for walleyes?
I've played with it a little bit. Last fall on the Madison chain, I was hooked into. I was told, get away from your stick baits, play with the Ned rigs, and I became a believer last fall. I mean, it was insane at how easy you could catch a fish with those stupid Ned jigs.
We call them the turds.
The turds, and it works.
Same thing for smallies, man. I was up on Lake Alice, which is part of the Wisconsin River system, last summer with my kids, and I just gave them a Ned rig, and they're like, "That's not going to catch anything, Dad." I'm like, "Throw it out there," and they caught like 3 smallies over 20 inches on one spot on them. I said, "See, they work, don't they?" And we caught several incidental walleyes on that system on them as well. So they definitely work for walleyes for sure.
So I've been making my own jigs, some heavier jigs, because typically most of your Ned stuff is all bass stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, then you guys carry over, so they don't have anything heavy enough, you know, to really go out and fish those deep water spots up on the bay, you know, in August. And I started making my own. You know, I got some. They're just under 3/4 of an ounce, but then we're using, you know, really long, like a, you know, 4 or 4.5 inch tail versus the short stubby turd tails. And that has become my absolute favorite bait up on the bay, just for the simple reason with that, you know, the hair jig, keeping that thing down on the bottom. I mean, you guys have used the Ned rigs, that thing, you know, dancing and just, you know, real erratic action sitting down the bottom. There's no stinger hook needed, because every fish that I've caught doing that has got that bait so far down its throat, you know, you just want to cut it and let it swim away.
Wow.
They pin those Ned rigs so hard to the bottom, and it's not a nip. I don't know why, but it just drives them crazy up there. We've been using them on Winnebago for quite a while too. But you know, once we figured out, okay, we need something heavier, I got my molds out, got my Dremel out, started making some heavier Ned rig heads, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Nice. Awesome. Something to look into then.
Yeah, I'll remember that. So you're saying you're using a full Senko on there or something, huh? Like a 4-inch.
So Z-Man makes a bait called the hula sticks. And it's basically 3 small little Ned rigs high with like little tentacles on the end. And my buddy, well, Gussie, you know, Jeff is the one that turned me on to them. And they're so soft. And when you're down, I mean, they look awesome in the water. But that, you know, one thing I found with walleyes is maybe when they're a little bit more picky, but if you're fishing really hard plastics, you know, you get a lot of fish that'll come up and nip and spit it out. You know, the softer the plastic, the better, not only for, I think, feel, but I think just for action. But yeah, these hula sticks that Z-Man makes, every person I've ever showed just like, oh my God, why have we been missing this for so long? And it's so easy. And the other, I mean, it literally, you can, as a guide, I can give a rod to somebody and say, here, cast this out, you're going to catch a fish. And it is got to be the easiest way to fish. It doesn't take much, and it's just, it catches fish. I don't care what we catch bluegills on them. We catch bass, you know, you're catching walleyes. I've caught flatheads on them. Just, I don't know, everybody or everything that swims down there seems to eat those Ned rigs.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. What's next on the agenda? I guess first, who's taking the boat and who's taking the cash, or what's going on there?
Well, I'm in the boat right now here. Beautiful boat.
Yeah, it is a beautiful boat. Unfortunately, it's probably going to get listed here this weekend. Going to be selling it, and I have some work to do on my boat. If anyone knows of anyone that has a motor 250 to 300 horsepower that I could put on my Triton, I'm looking for that in the next week and a half, because I've got some family vacations coming up, and now I don't have a boat. So
have you talked to DJ up at Sporto yet?
I have not. I should probably maybe get a hold. I talked to the boat dock, and I talked to Fort Fremont. They have an engine at the boat dock, but it's a Verado, and to do all the controls and whatnot, switching that, because I had an Optimax on my Triton, it'd be a lot of messing around. So I'm trying to find something that's, you know, either a 2-stroke, which I don't really want, but preferably like a newer 4-stroke Pro XS, or just the regular Mercury 4-stroke. with a 25-inch shaft. I mean, I've been finding ones with 20-inch shafts off of bass boats, but that doesn't help me either. So trying to find a motor so that I can keep running my Triton the rest of this year here. Going to sell the Ranger and hopefully get an upgraded boat for next year. Something, a little bit newer than what I have now. So, and then we can both be happy. So should be good.
Another guy, or John had another question. Do you guys, either one of you guys, have tournament superstitions?
Yeah, we talked about this one. It was kind of fun. So we've both been in tournaments where we said we're jigging, and we took trolling rods out of the boat and died with our jig sticks in our hands. So this one, going into the first day, Scott's like, well, should I take my rods out? I said, no, they're staying in. They're going for a long boat ride for a couple of days. They are not coming out. The night crawlers are staying in the boat, just in case we end up with a death jig in our hand or something crazy. But nope. So I'm superstitious about that.
Right.
I've learned that one the hard way.
And I usually have bananas in a boat.
Yeah,
not this
Scott,
time.
he likes bananas. I'm a believer in hats. This hat here, I was wearing for pre-fishing, and it was brutal. I blew my motor with this hat on. All sorts of bad things happened. So I switched to my City Boy hat. I got a hat for my birthday that for when I went to Florida. It's a Huck hat, and I put that on in our luck chain. So I wore that sucker every day of the tournament too. And
you didn't burn that one?
I'll be wearing that fishing for sure every time I go now. But yeah,
I'm sure Mercury could get you a new hat and could burn that one if that one's bad luck.
yeah, I think when I get the new motor, I'm going to be looking for a new hat for sure. So absolutely.
Well, I'll be talking to BJ here either tonight or tomorrow. I'll ask him and see what he's got, or tell him that you're looking for something.
Awesome.
Let's see. And Larry Redmond said too, if you do find a 20-inch, buy it, because you can put the extension on if there's a good deal or something like that.
I wonder how involved that would be, but yeah, thank you. That's something I can look into.
Yep. Yeah, so that's not a problem there. I don't see any other questions. So any more tournaments, or where are you guys off to next?
Well, we're thinking about how do we get into the Lake Erie NTC. We're hoping that we would have got a bid from winning this one, but we have to requalify again. So now it comes to what do we have to fish to have a chance at that one. So
Yeah,
be more discussion on the horizon
next year.
Oh, that'd be just a blast. I mean, you're going to catch so many fish.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never been to Erie, so I'd love to get out there. I mean, even for fun, I guess. Either way, I'd like to get out there. So, but it'd be fun to go and fish the NTC again. We fished it. Scott and I, we fished it twice. I fished it 4 times so far. So, and every time it's been a blast. So, might as well try to do it every year.
Right.
John said, I just told Dean he's the second best walleye fisherman from Freedom right now.
I don't know about that. He's got a lot more experience than this guy you're talking to. But
no, yeah, Dino, he's a good dude.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, and Larry said for the extension, it's 1,200 in parts. That's it.
Okay.
It's literally just putting on the center section, so it's not bad. It's not hard to do.
Okay.
Well, cool beans, guys. Congrats again, and good luck to hear the rest of the summer. Have you found anything yet that is close for qualifying?
We have Green Bay Walleye Series event coming up in July, and then an MWC coming up in July also out on Green Bay. I think pretty much all the Winnebago series are filled up on out there from the boat dock and whatnot. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I miss fishing Winnebago tournaments. It's been a couple of
Same
years
here.
kind of since, I told Scott I want to win Merc or Otter Street someday. So maybe we'll get a little more involved on Bago again here in the.
I think Otter Street's still open right now. You can still get into that tournament, and this week here is really turned on, and I think you're going to see some really heavy weights come for Merc. I think these guys are going to figure, as long as the rain's going to be the big problem, right? They're talking 2 inches of rain, 2.5 inches of rain.
Well, we need it, so
we need it. Yep. But it's either going to be, Saturday or later Saturday into Sunday. So, one of the 2 days is going to be.
Yeah, I see
different.
Sunday they're talking a northeast blow. There's always a northeast blow for Merck, so
yeah,
that's going to be Sunday. Everyone's going to have to try to survive Sunday, I think. But
and 3 inches of rain.
Yeah, never fails. I'm getting ready. I might end up with my kicker motor this next week. We're doing a Father's Day fishing trip. Last 3 years we've done it with family and friends. We go up to Crystal Falls, Michigan, and putt around on little lakes and catch bluegills. So bring my boys, and I'm looking forward to that. And if I have to use my kicker motor, I will be doing that. So yeah, that's what's next for me. And then I have a family vacation after, like, the week after that. So I want to get out on Lake Michigan and chase them salmon around too. I hear that's been pretty good, but
yeah,
it's just no time. Everything is happening so fast. The month of June always flies by. So I wish we could clone this month and trade it in for March or something, but haven't figured out how to do that yet. So
how about you, Scott?
I'm thinking I might actually go chase some bluegills this week and something relaxing and look at bobbers again, and don't really care to look at a walleye for a couple of weeks, to be honest with you. I'm kind of walleyed out. So it's just fun fishing with the family and let the dog swim around the live well some more where she belongs or needs to be, and take it from there.
I did that with my puppy this last weekend with my wife, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "That's where they want to be most of the time, is in the live well."
Exactly.
Well, one of these days, if you want to come up and fish some of these Washera County lakes, I got some spots we can go catch some.
Awesome. I'll take you up on it.
Yeah, got a blindfold plan. So.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. We'll see you guys around, and yeah, don't be a stranger, Scott. If you want to come up and fish, let me know.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Troy.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Yep. You too.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. That was awesome. Good dudes. Congrats again. And well deserved. I know it was a grind. Let's see. The fishing reports, I guess. Let's talk about fishing reports around here. The Washera County lakes, starting to finally go chase some bluegills. They're pretty much getting close to being off their beds, and not seeing too many more males on the beds. They've kind of transitioned now to the deeper weed edges, and the crappies also have kind of moved into the deeper weed edges. If you can find any of those weeds, those like little curly Q weeds that grow up from the bottom, they're kind of white. The crappies are really in those. Pretty much every lake we've been to, that's kind of what we're finding is the crappies are there, and then the bluegills are tending to be more in that cabbage and off the deeper cabbage. So that's been what's happened out here in the small lakes, panfish wise. Out on the Bötehouse system, Huygen's still been pretty hot for me. We've been doing really well, catching some fish in the cane beds, catching some fish on some rocks. Trolling's been really well. The buoy line, going from Winneconne up to Huygen, that's been a pretty good troll. Catching a lot of big pike as well, doing that. Salmos, flicker shads, flicker minnows, number 5s. That's been a pretty good troll. And then, trolling the south end of the horseshoe, and right down through the horseshoe. It seems like when there's been a lot of bugs out, the fish have been coming pretty high in the water column. If we're catching walleyes, it's typically 10 to 15 feet back on the boards. And if you go deeper, that's when you tend to catch more sheephead and white bass and pike. And we just found that as we started raising baits or letting lines out, I think is what triggered it. One day I was just letting a line out. I think it hit like 11 feet and it just went crazy. And that was the biggest walleye we had of the day. So, don't be afraid to run your crankbaits and stuff really high up in the water column out there, because I think with how calm and how hot it's been out on the system, a lot of bug hatch, a lot of different places where you can see a lot of larvae and stuff coming up too. And those walleyes have been really feeding on not only the bugs, but the small fish that have been up there eating the bugs on the surface as well. Out on Winnebago, the weed bite's going really well. Guys are catching fish jigging, pulling spinners over the tops of the weeds. The south end has been fairly decent. Definitely warmer, dirtier water up there. The further north you go, the cleaner it gets. But what intrigued me one day is, typically you think that, you get real clear water and you kind of want to find dirtier water, which is the case, but that those fish are still there and you can see them. And I was talking to one of the guys that was fishing a bass tournament up in Winneconne one day, and he was telling me that, he was fishing this Peacock Bay, and there was a reef that was close, and I'm like, Peacock Bay? Oh, you're talking, up by Cowlings Bay. You guys are hearing peacocks. And sure enough, that's what they were talking about. And they were, looking for bass and seeing all kinds of smallies, but he was telling me that they were seeing more walleyes on these reefs and these rocks and shoreline spots than they were bass. And he says we were throwing at them and catching them, but obviously that's not what we wanted. So it just got me thinking, it's like, okay, water's clear. If the fish aren't going to spook, maybe, we can get up there and try and catch them. So, we've been throwing some Ned rigs and some swim baits and catching walleyes, watching them, basically turn around on the bait and come up and eat your baits in 2 and 3 feet of water. So I guess don't be afraid. The fish are going to eat as long as they're not spooked. You can typically get in there and catch these fish. So trolling, Brad's like, no fish in the mud. Brad, I think that's not true. I think there's a lot of fish out in the mud. I know a lot of guys have been doing really well out there trolling, especially over on the east shore. The north end of the lake is really heating up, this warm weather, kind of getting green, and now hopefully start to dirty up this water. Holy cow, sorry. So, it's just going to get better. It's going to be an interesting tournament for sure for the Merc guys this weekend. Everybody, there's always somebody that's going to catch them. Typically this time of the year, the river is, one of the hottest bites that's going. And boy, the last couple of weeks, the river has been almost like non-existent. It's not going to be a player, I don't think, in this tournament at all. Zero current, and there just haven't been the fish in the river like there has been in typical years. The upper lakes, Poygan and Butamore, Winneconne, there's still, if you got a little bit of wind, you got the right conditions, still some really good shoreline and rock spots that guys are getting some big fish too. So it'll be fun to watch. It's really going to be interesting to see how much rain and when the rain comes, because that's going to change everybody's ball game if we get that much rain. And with how dry it is, you're just going to get a lot of runoff really quick, because it's going to take quite a while for this stuff to start to saturate. So going to be interesting. Hopefully it'll help some of these guys get some dirtier water. But I believe the weights are going to be quite high. Corey says the same thing. Weights will be up this year. It's going to be a good bite. It's going to be real fun to watch. I just, like I say, putting 2 days together during Merc has always been difficult, and looks like it's going to play true again this year. We're going to have one, looks like pretty nice day, and one day that guys are going to wish that they could stay home and stay in bed. Down, I know guys were looking for perch. We've been down fishing some of the islands and down on some of the reefs and Abrams and off a Long Point and over by Jesuit. And, occasionally we've been catching a perch, but I haven't seen any real numbers or, heard of any guys even really getting any numbers at all yet. We did find some crappies out in, just on the edge of some of the bays on like that 11, 12, 13 feet of water, and a few bluegills and stuff mixed in too. But the perch, my guess is as good as yours where those things go this time of the year. I think they're just kind of all scattered, roaming about. Still a few in the weeds, I'm sure. But the weeds are really high in a lot of the spots already this year. So, you'll start seeing if I was going to start looking for perch, that would probably be the first place I'd go, is go find the thickest weeds you can, get in the pockets, and just drop some jigs or cane poles or whatever you use down in the weeds. So, any other questions? I just want to make sure I got everybody. Joseph, haven't really concentrated on perch yet. Still kind of in walleye mode and chasing. Now I'm gonna start chasing some more bluegills and crappies. Now that they're all done spawning, and should be good. How's everybody else doing? What are you guys seeing? I'd love to see the comments. Helps a lot of people out. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and it's good to see everybody again. I know we missed a couple of weeks. I guess a little recap from the NWT. We had a really good bite. We were catching, pretty consistent low to mid 20s fish. Every day I practice, I'd go check the same spot and I'd get 1 or 2 fish and leave. I would watch them on the Mega Live. You could see them on side image. They'd move in and out of these shallow spots. And it was, pretty confident for both Danny Ploutz and I to run up there. And I was the first one up there, and I should have stayed on my first spot. And I let him have the one spot where we were getting a few more fish. And I got up to my second one, and my co-angler had some issues, to say the least. We were having some issues trying to cast poles and tie jigs, and for the first 2 hours I spent a lot of time retying jigs and fixing stuff. So a little frustrating on that end, but what happened is our water temperature dropped 10 degrees that first day, and as I would sit there and watch these fish, it didn't matter what I was throwing. We had slip bobbers with leeches, with crawlers. I was throwing plastics. I was throwing Ned rigs, you name it. I threw everything at these fish, and I would watch them come up, and they would sit there and look and swim away, and not even fast swim away. They didn't want to eat. Second day, really good partner, told them what we had going. He wanted to go for the win. I wanted to go for the win, and we went back and did it again. Fished the area, and first fish was like a 6-pounder. And then we got a couple, like a 19 and then a 17, and we lost another big fish. And we went back to the lake and caught a couple small ones, and that was it for the tournament. So not the tournament I wanted. It was good to see Danny. I think he took 26 or something. I should have been there. It just didn't fall for me. It was neat to show him how to fish the Ned rigs. He had never even used one before. We were casting willow blades, catching a ton of fish on those, and everything was going great. We had a really, really good pre-fish. Once we figured out kind of a little bit of a pattern, we just went and hit every one of those spots, and we caught fish, and never really picked up the trolling boards or the planer boards and trolling till second day. We pretty much sat and jigged and slip bobbered on shallow stuff the whole week. So let's see. Brian asked, do you drop shot at times? Yeah, I love fishing walleyes like bass. I'm not a bass fisherman by any means. I won't go to the areas that typically hold the ditch pickles, but I've watched and been able to hang out with a lot of really good bass fishermen, and been taught how to use those same tactics for walleye fishing. So drop shotting, not only do we drop shot for the walleyes, but drop shotting for bluegills is a ton of fun. When you get into some really heavy cabbage, whether it's bluegills or walleyes, we get a lot of fish doing that in that deep cabbage. It's a great technique, and again, a lot of the stuff I do is all related to bass and different bass baits and stuff like that. So as much as people hate bass, go and check out some of their stuff that they use, because there's a lot of good things. Chatterbaits too. We've been throwing these small, real small, almost like crappie size chatterbaits through the weeds, or even long, taking long cane poles, and you can almost swing enough. You can almost swing a rod enough to almost get like a small troll, with a 14 or 16-foot cane pole, and move those chatterbaits through the weeds. And when you do that and have a 2 to 3 pound walleye hit a chatterbait 2 feet underneath the surface on a 16-foot cane pole, then you know what fun is. And I don't know, it's just fun way to fish, and love learning and trying new things, and can't wait to get back out here over the next few days and catch some more of those walleyes. But I guess I'm going to leave everybody here. Thanks all for dropping in, and we will see you guys next week. We'll probably be back to Tuesday nights again. Tonight only worked for Lance and Scott. They had some stuff. I think it was Lance's wife's birthday on Tuesday, so he didn't want to miss that, and I didn't blame him. So we did tonight instead. Other than that, I guess anybody fishing Merc, good luck. Have fun, and remember, guys, it's just fishing. Just go out and have fun and polka and dance and catch some fish. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend, and thanks again. Talk to you guys later. Bye.